Welcome back to the IBJJF Podcast. My guest is Bruno Bastos, and today we're going to recap the 2023 European Jiu-Jitsu Championships. Bruno, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for the opportunity once again, IBJJF, for being able to share a little bit of my knowledge on that amazing platform.
Yeah, it was such an amazing event. It's the first major gi championship of 2023. We were talking a lot before we started recording about how impressive the black belts, not even just the black belts, but the black belts and the color belts, how impressive they were, how much jiu-jitsu they showed, and how much they pursued the submission in this event. I feel like that was a big theme of the Europeans this year.
100%, Daniel. Like, I felt the same way. If you go back all the way, like, of course, we're going to talk more about the black belts, but go all the way back to the juveniles, even Sarah Galvão, for example, like with some amazing matches, and then like a lot of the champions of this event with high percentage submission rate overall. So I think that's good to see on the jiu-jitsu because at the end, you want to win, but also with the opportunities that IBJJF providing nowadays with Grand Prix super fights, people want entertainment as well. So I think that at least getting the message.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start with two really interesting facts. We had 19 black belt finals. 10 of them were finished by submission, which is a really high submission percentage rate, especially when the level's that high. And we also had 6 black belts who had all submissions on their way to gold. So we had Talison Soares had 2 submissions, Tainan Dalpra, Kainan Duarte, Gabrieli Pessanha, Maria Maliacek, Anna Rodriguez all had all submissions on their way to gold. Really impressive stuff from these athletes.
Yes, man. Like, I agree. Very impressive. And I would like to start with Talison because Talison was a kid that came up all the belts, winning like everything, right? And there also was a lot of expectation for him as a black belt. And I think because he couldn't get a black belt world title right away, there was a lot of pressure on that. All right, which he finally achieved. And now I think we're gonna see like a more dominant Talison like on the tournaments because the way I see on the weight, I think in my view he's ahead of the competition, and I think with the less pressure now for that world title, we start seeing that on this weekend, for example, his performance.
Yeah, Talison looked amazing. 2 fights, 2 submissions. Another person I really think we should do a deep dive on is Kainan Duarte. Won his weight class and the open class. 3 submissions in his weight class, 4 submissions in the open. Looked better than we've ever seen him. He went up to super heavy, so he challenged himself in a new division. And I think that decision to go up in weight class really benefited him in the open. That was actually his first major black belt championship open class gold, which is kind of surprising because we all know how good Kainan is, but that was the first time he won the open class in a major as the black belt. So that was really great.
Oh, Kainan, I didn't start with Kainan because for me, like the best for the last, right?
Yeah.
Man, Kainan was like we talk about for lot of times. He looked like he was like drilling like during the match, right? So precise and like in all with fundamental techniques, right? Which was like even more impressive. I agree with you that the change of the weight class benefited him. Maybe to because he's a big guy, so maybe to make heavyweight that would deplete him for the absolute. Having to compete the absolute because it's before the weight class, so have to compete the absolute, still having to make weight, you know. And I know how hard that is because I have done that myself in the past. All right. So like I think the change of weight class was like key for that performance. Excited to see him going for the next tournaments. Uh, and then now that, like you said, crazy that for the first time he wins a absolute in a major tournament. So I'm sure that he's gonna be hunting for that at Worlds, and really excited to see what potential match he can have on that, and even like on IBJJF Grand Prix events with like some super fights as well.
In my opinion, 2 of his most impressive wins were the semifinal and the final, the open class. And it was against 2 Brazilian national champions from 2022. In the semifinal, he beat Mason Fowler by submission, and then he beat Hidezuki by submission in the open class final, both by choke from the back. What did you think of those 2 matches out of Kainan?
And like I think especially on the semifinal against Mason, because if you analyze the match, Mason he has a very good back defense because of a lot of like no gi events that he does. and I see him trying to use that everything that I have seen him using, and by having trained with him before. But Kainan, he was never in a rush to put the hooks.
Yeah.
He just made sure at all times that he had his chest on like Mason's shoulder blades. All right, so kind of like a backpack. And then if you see like Mason did everything that he possibly could. And Tainan, like he didn't rush on the hooks, and then he really just put the hooks when he attacked the neck,
Mhm.
right? And then like that real neck choke was like tight was on. So that for me was very impressive the way he went all the way to the back because he made Mason expose the back by passing with like a collar and a pant grip that he run to the side. And Mason couldn't frame to shrimp away because the way Canon placed his grips from the top and run to the side. So the only way to avoid the pass was really expose the back. I think he count on his back defense, but man, Kainan was like everything on point.
Yeah.
So I just want to like give a pointed out that technical part, like because I think is important. People that's part of jiu-jitsu study, right? Where you see like high level athletes performing high level techniques against high level like athletes as well. And the final if you hit it like you said, because they have like a close match before, and now this time like dominant, you know, didn't give Hitter like a chance to like if the like to develop his game during the match. So he really came like I feel like when he started the final of the episode, he really came on a mission to make a statement, and he did. Like all submissions. Again, excited to see him like going forward like on the next tournaments of the year.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Kainan compete at Pans, hopefully Brasileiros and Worlds. Like you said, if he can replicate what he did in the open class in Paris in the other major tournaments, I think we could see Kainan on
Mm-hmm.
top of more open class podiums for sure.
100%. And then like about Tainan Dalpra.
Yeah, so it was funny. You talked about how Kainan was taking the back and how he wasn't getting the hooks. Tynan did the same thing. He had 3 matches.
Mm-hmm.
He competed on Sunday. He didn't have any matches up until the quarterfinal, so he just had the 3 matches on Sunday. Finished all of them from the back. Really impressive stuff from Tainan Dalpra. I think every time we watch him compete, we're really impressed. But this time, it seemed like he was really focused on taking the back. I know he's putting out a back take instructional, so he really wanted to
Mm-hmm.
showcase what he was going to show in that technique series, and he did just that. He finished all his opponents. I was really impressed with his match against Lucas Protasio too in the semifinal. I felt like that one was a good challenge for him. Lucas is a really good guard passer.
Mm-hmm.
Tynan pulled guard and showed some of his great X guard techniques as well. But what are your overall thoughts on Tynan Dalpra and his performance in Paris?
Um, so he sold his instructional for sure, for sure. I agree that the toughest match was against Lucas on the semifinal. Lucas is an excellent competitor, like with amazing jiu-jitsu. Um, he really tried to put like Tainan in some uncomfortable situations, but Tainan he has such a good like guard retention and like entries for his like X guard, single leg X like arsenal, right? And then I think that ability of retaining guard under pressure was key for him to keep working his way to eventually get to the back. All right. So that for sure was that definitely the like the toughest match for him in the tournament. But we have to talk about his Gator role that's became viral already on internet, right? To take the back on the final. Like even my son here, like at home, he asked me to watch like 5 times already. Like, how do I do that? I was like, wait a little bit. So it's amazing to see, and then like to see how he performed, and then also like because I talk about my son, it's amazing to see how as well how he become like a role model for young kids,
Yep.
right? Because he's a great young man that has unbelievable potential because he still didn't reach his peak. I'm like he's every time that he competes, he shows something different and better, right? And he speaks well, talks well, like he teaches well, teach kids. So I think that's very important to mention because it is good to be a champion, all right, but even better to be a role model like for the young generation.
Absolutely. Tynan's very humble and he has one of the best work ethics I've ever seen. I know he was posting stuff on his social media pages right after Europeans. He's already back to training and teaching,
Hmm.
right back into his normal routine and trying to fix the mistakes that he said he made. I didn't see any mistakes, but he said he spoke about them with Professor Gee and they found some things to work on. So I think you're absolutely right. He hasn't even reached his full potential yet.
Exactly. And like I think that thing that you said about the work ethic and then being back to training already, one thing that I always tell my students, and what I want to teach seminars, that Monday is Monday for everybody. So you're winning or losing, and then like, yeah, like you win, blah blah, or you lose, like, oh no, you did good, whatever. Monday's Monday for everyone. So you cannot be like depressed like on a loss. All right, you cannot be on the euphoria for the win as well, because maybe one thing that I like to say is that sometimes if you put like a European or PANS, Brazilian, whatever, like World Championship, like every day of the week, some divisions maybe would have like different champion every day. So that just means that that person was the best on that day of that division, and that's it. So you just get back to work, and that shows as well why he's on the top for so long, right? Because he wasn't the guy that winning everything on the color belts. Like he was impressed on the color belts, but he wasn't winning everything. He has losses. Like he didn't. I don't remember. I know. I remember he winning as a blue belt, like juvenile, but I don't remember him winning as a purple. He didn't win as a brown. But it's all part of the journey, right? And then look where he's at now as a black belt. So, um, speaking of that, excited to see his super fight against Isaac Bayensi. They're going to be on the next BJF Grand Prix, right? 30 minutes match on a BJF rules. That's exciting with some like changes on the rules as well as far as stalling, and that's like very good and important to mention as well. So that really now, like we are like beginning of February, March 3rd cannot get here soon enough.
Absolutely. That's going to be a great match. I know Isaac was there watching Tynan compete and coaching some of
Yes.
his Dream Art students. So it was great to catch up
Hmm.
with both of them and hear their thoughts on the rules and about Tynan's performance. So, like you said, March 3rd cannot come soon enough.
Exactly.
So, speaking of athletes who are extremely dominant, we got to talk about Gabrieli Pessanha. She was one of the athletes I mentioned who had all submissions between her weight class and the open, 4 submissions, 4 fights. Gabrieli, this was her 6th straight double gold at a major tournament, which is absolutely unbelievable. 2021 Worlds, she won double gold, and since then, she has not lost an IBJJF competition.
Hmm. Man, last time, Danny, that I recall her losing, I can be wrong, right? But last time I recall her losing a match in a BGF circuit was to Ana Vieira
Yep.
at the 2020 Pens
Yeah.
on the
I
Absolute.
believe it was 2021 Pans. Yeah.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. So other than that, very dominant, very dominant. So it's a match that I'm looking forward to see sometime like soon. But like going back to Gabby's performance, and like, I think uh, for me it's very impressive how kind of like we talk about Tainan Dalpra that always show improvement. Her dominance keep growing,
Yep.
right? When she came up on the ranks, she would win a lot, but wasn't always double gold, right? She'd lose a match here and there, and then like even on a black belt in the beginning. But now, like the way, and one thing that believe is really cool, she's one of the very few uh, world champions, like high level, at least that compete in a lot of opens as well. So if you go, like you can literally be on like on a Dallas Open and Gabi Pessanha there, like doubling open. I was there last year because I have kids on the European kids. She was there competing class open class, like doubling open, you know. And then you see that on the ranking. That's why she's so ahead of everybody as well on the points, because she's ranking like everything. I love her close guard. How offensive is her close guard? It's really nice how she off balance people. She has like she knows how to use very well her legs, like long legs, right? I love how she puts pressure on top. I love how she can go inverted. She can like it's pretty much the full package. The only thing that I haven't seen yet is takedowns, but guess what? She doesn't need it because if you don't push, she pulls. You know, it's like you choosing like how like it's a menu.
Yeah.
You know, so she's very impressive. excited to see her competing more. I see that she's not on the Grand Prix. I'm sure that like the match to make when it comes to a super fight in IBJJF would be the winner of that Grand Prix against Gabrieli Pessanha.
Yeah, I want to get your take on her open class opponents too, because she beat three world class athletes. She submitted Talita Silva in the final. She beat Maria Maliacek, who won medium heavy, and she also beat Elizabeth
Hmm.
Clay, all by submission.
Yeah, like I think that sequence of matches show her dominance because you talk about three world class highest level athletes, right? And all by submission. And Talita in the final, she fought really hard. Like for me, it was incredible. Like her level of defense, and she wasn't just trying to survive. She's really trying to win the match, which for me, like, was amazing. Like her effort, but shows like as well how Gabi is ahead. And then like one thing that I think is really cool is that Gabi Pessanha, she doesn't rush on things. She doesn't get it. Okay, let me keep like putting volume, keep volume.
Yep.
She go makes the bite, not enough to be meat. The girl fight it off, fight it off, fight it off. Okay, let me just keep going, keep rolling, keep rolling. And I think that shows as well, like not only the technical level, but also the confidence level, knowing that in some point she's gonna get you. It's just a matter of time. That's how I felt that was her performance at Europeans, and then that's why for me it's so impressive. Because again, it's not just the technical level; it's like she's so confident right now, which I think comes from competing all the time, right? I always say that you cannot get better at anything by not doing it, and she does that all the time. So competing is natural for her. She competes like she's just having another round at the gym, you know. So I think that's like is a big difference for how she performed against all those high level girls.
It was great. She won, of course, all her matches this weekend by submission. She
Hmm.
won the double Grand Slam last year. She's expressed interest in doing that same thing again in 2023. And there are also a lot of other athletes who won gold at Europeans who want to go for the Grand Slam as well. I know Talison mentioned that he wanted to do it. Luisa Montero, Tainan has mentioned it. Anna Rodriguez, Maisa, and Felipe Andrew, who went down to heavyweight
Hmm.
and won gold. So, are there any of those athletes that I mentioned who want to go for the Grand Slam that you wanted to talk about, or that you felt like have a really good chance of getting the Grand Slam this year?
I think all of them have a really good chance. Since we didn't talk about Felipe Andrew yet, like I think it's important to me because he's the number one on the ranking, the BJF ranking. I always make sure that I pointed out the ranking because for me it's very impressive how you can be on the top of the ranking with so many amazing athletes, right? And Felipe Andrew is a guy that made a change, like now going to heavyweight, which I think gonna make a big difference for him. He's already made this past weekend, right? Um, he was able to be dominant on his performance, and I think the way his performance at heavyweight, like I don't know if he gonna maybe that gonna take him away from the absolute, right? I don't see him competing absolute in every major going as a heavyweight, but I think they're gonna pay off like to get the Grand Slam. And I'm excited to see and rooting for him to achieve that because he's a great kid as well.
Yeah, it was interesting what you said about him doing the absolute because I got a chance to catch up with him before he competed. He said he does want to do the absolute at one major tournament, most likely, but he's not going to do it at all of them. So it's going to
Hmm.
be a bit different because we're so used to seeing Felipe in the absolute at all the major tournaments.
Exactly, exactly. And like I said, we talk about how that was possibly the key for Kainan's performance on absolute, not having to cut that weight, right? But that's what like probably gonna push Philip away from the absolute because it is like really hard. And then Philip is a tall guy, right? Like big as well. And then I know for sure that's not easy for him like to walk around like a not too far away to be able to make headway to every major tournament. And then like the Europeans January, Worlds like very beginning of June. So like the window is short. So it's not like he can like just go like back and forth on the weight. He has to make be able to stay like close enough for the weight where it's not dangerous for him to make the cut and affect his performance. So that's why like I didn't even know about that info that you got with him, right? But that's why for me he wasn't going to be competing at the on the majors because On an open, you're gonna have 4 or 5 match total. On a major, you're gonna have 4 5 matches like to win your division, and that like is a big difference.
Yeah, there's one other athlete I wanted to talk about who I mentioned who won gold at Europeans, wants to go for the Grand Slam, and that's Anna Rodriguez. That she's a Dream Art athlete, and she went up to featherweight again this year. I know she did featherweight for 2022 Europeans, but she went down to
Hmm.
light feather for 2022 Worlds, back up to featherweight for 2023 Europeans. Looked very dominant, 2 matches, 2 submissions, and I think there's some really interesting potential matches for her at featherweight.
I agree with you, and I hope she stays at featherweight like the whole season. Uh, because I believe even though paid off for her to win Worlds as a light feather, but I think making light feather takes away from her performance. Because uh, like you don't see much to lose there. Like she's very fit girl, right? So like it's not that she can like be cutting like a lot. Uh, I think her performance was great this weekend, and I really hope she stays on the featherweight because the featherweight division I think gonna be more challenging for her as well. Uh, Moving forward during the year, and especially at Worlds, featherweight is always a division that have like really like tough girls. I think overall is a tougher division than light feather because has more girls chancing like of winning like a challenge for the world title. So and she have won the worlds already twice. So like why not stay as a featherweight? So I really think if she stays at featherweight, we're gonna see like some like great matches like during the year.
Yeah, and like we've talked about the whole podcast, the black belts just had such amazing performances in Paris for the Europeans. So I just want to congratulate all of them for putting it all out there, really going forward the whole time and really pursuing the submission. So I thought now we'd talk about some of the color belts who had great performances. There were 3 athletes that really stood out to me at this Europeans. First is Anderson Ferreira of Carlson Gracie team. He won brown belt double gold, took gold in the medium heavy division, then won the open class. And that guy's takedowns were just incredible. He had amazing judo, amazing wrestling, hit some beautiful double legs, and awesome submission skills. So, what do you know about Anderson, and what can you tell me about his performance at Europeans?
And like I be very honest, like I knew his name, but it wasn't like a guy that like I was watching like all the time. All right. At European, I was able to watch more. I see him in the World Pro last year, and then like I see in some other tournaments. But like, was the first time that I stopped to pay attention, like on a BGF like major tournament. As we spoke before the podcast, it is a kid that like if we take in consideration the difference of jiu-jitsu like in different eras, is a kid that reminded me a lot of Ronaldo Jacaré, Ronaldo Souza, right? How explosive he is, how aggressive he is, how he's able to use the bounds when he needs. His ability of changing the pace of the match when like he can slow down to recover a little bit and then explode again and go for. Uh, Always looking for the submission, like that for me is like the most impressive thing. And like the absolute final match against Hiram Gracie, and even though it was the whole match with them on their feet, for me it was one of the best matches of the tournament
Mm-hmm.
because the intensity that they put, like they both trying to really like win the whole time, not just take the gold. So one of the best matches of the tournament for me. Hiram that had like a good performance as well. But Wanderson, like you see a potential star like over there. If he keeps that way through the whole year, and then eventually achieving his black belt, I think we can see we seeing their potential like future star of jiu-jitsu.
Let's talk about the other brown belt double gold champion, Giovanna Jara of Dream Art. She's had an amazing career in the gi, won double gold at major tournaments before, but she just looked extremely dominant, very strong. Won gold at heavyweight, won gold in the open class. I know you've watched Giovanna quite a bit. What do you think about her jiu-jitsu, and how excited are you to see her at black belt potentially?
Yeah, like Giovanna, I watched more because when she was in a blue belt, that wasn't too long ago. It was 13 months ago. She was a blue belt, right? But I used to watch more because she's in a division. When she was a blue belt, she was in a division of one of my students, so it was someone that I have to watch the whole time, right? And then, man, she's already a star. Like I go ahead and say that she's already a star. Uh, Double gold as was blue, purple. Already double gold no gi worlds as a brown. Now double gold Europeans a brown. I think is a girl that is favorite. We cannot affirm that she gonna wins everything double gold like we tournaments like you know that there are other high level girls. But if she wants to go for double gold in every major tournament of the year, I think she's a favorite. And then I'm 100% sure that if she wins brown belt, worlds, she gonna get her black belt there. Like I don't see like her staying longer than that as a brown belt, which already like opens for huge future matchups. We just talk about the Gabi Pessanha, right? Uh, so Giovanna can be the future like rival, like in a good way. Let's put that way. So impressive how she just like besides the absolute final match, if I'm not wrong, she taps everybody. So very dominant.
Yeah, let's talk about another brown belt who was actually a purple belt during the Europeans, Colavante.
Yeah.
He competed in the lightweight division, 6 matches, 5 submissions, looked absolutely phenomenal. And then he got his brown belt on the podium, so he's currently a brown belt. But Cole looked great. It was really cool to see him go up in weight, really challenge himself. He looked very strong, played guard, played top, had a lot of submissions. I know you've watched Cole quite a bit too, as he came
Hmm.
up in Texas. What were your thoughts on Cole's performance at Europeans?
Well, then I'm gonna say that his performance was a warm up of Tainan instructional, right? Because besides his final match, and I don't remember now the name of the kid from Aliança, but a really tough kid. So besides the final match, he finished everybody on the back, right? So for me, it was very impressive how he always found a way to get on the back of his opponents and get the finish. He's a kid that he was a brown belt already, but like as far as technical level, like but of course, Professor Gill, like, and then he explained like the importance of being day to day with the athlete, and then like see like things that to improve, and then challenge. And I understand that I'm like I have like a lot of students competitors myself. I understand that you like the professor always gonna know the right time to for the promotion, right? So I think it was good. He hold make sure that Cole like fix few things that they have to do it. Now going brown belt, man, I cannot wait to see him as a brown belt already, like on the next tournaments, because I think he arrived in a brown belt as one of the favorites to win as well on the lightweight brown belt division. You know, he's still growing, so I think it was very good for him the change to lightweight, coming from feather to lightweight.
Yeah.
I think that was very good for him. Maybe he's still gonna grow a little bit more. He's so young; he's like 18, 19 years old,
Mhm.
so maybe he's still gonna develop a little more. Maybe he's gonna end up as a middleweight. Like who knows, right? But I'm sure that going up to lightweight was very important for him. Stopping like little bit like the cuts, right? And then I think like I've been talking a lot of the podcast about weight cuts, right? Because there's a thing on the jiu as well. And again, excited to see how he's gonna evolve this year as a brown belt. Another kid that I don't see, like I talk about Giovanna, right, and Wanderson, I don't see him being brown belt for long as well. I think he's gonna arrive, be one of the guys like they're gonna get as a favorite to win the division, and then probably next year or maybe even this year, like we can see him as a black belt.
It's going to be amazing to see him take on divisions at the Pans, maybe even the Brazilian Nationals, the Worlds in the brown belt
Hmm.
division as a lightweight. So, Bruno, thank you so much for helping break down all the action from the Europeans. Were there any other athletes you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up?
On the very beginning, I talked about Sarah Galvão, Andrea Galvão's daughter. Like I think it's very impressive how she's being dominant on her juvenile years, and then maybe people gonna say, "Oh, it's just a juvenile, whatever." Imagine the pressure of being like Andrea's daughter, Angelica's daughter. Angelica was a great competitor as well, and then perform the way she performed because she just doesn't win. Like she really like perform well, and then most of the match like dominating her opponent. So I think it's important to mention her. And then like have some athletes that had a really good performance. They just didn't win the tournament. Like um, Elijah from Wild River that had amazing performance even though he didn't win, right? And then like Andy Murasaki that won the lightweight, like
Yep.
really impressive performance. Malak from Lloyd runs well that beat Pato on the light feather. Pato was the heavy favorite, so Malak like got that. Mason followed that for me is like very underrated by people. Like he already won Brasileiros last year. Now win Europeans. I believe he's gonna come to Worlds and as one of the favorites. So gonna be nice to see. I don't think, at least I don't remember him facing like Vitor Hugo before, who is the current ultra heavy champion. So it's a great match to watch. Right. On the girls, like for me was nice. Vanessa Griffin was had a big performance well beating Elizabeth Clay. She normally Elizabeth Clay dominates her, and then she was able to beat Elizabeth Clay on the semi-final of their division. So that was a big upset as well. And then like I we have to mention Luisa Montero because Luisa is a veteran. She's speaking about trying to finish her career. I saw an interview where she uh, talks about maybe finishing her career this year, trying the Grand Slam. So I'm a big fan of Luisa. She's one of the greatest of all times. All right. I have a girl in her division, so I cannot feel good for her all the way. But man, I have to say that she was impressive one more time.
Yeah, I think we talk about this on every single podcast, but jiu-jitsu is always evolving. And I feel like even
Hmm.
between the 2022 season, which wasn't that long ago, it was only a month ago we were in 2022, but from that point up to the 2023 Europeans, we saw so much growth in jiu-jitsu, not just at the black belt
Hmm.
level, but in the color belts. And it's just so exciting going into these other major gi tournaments this year of the technical evolutions that we're going to see throughout the year.
100%, 100%. And then excited to be a part of this as a coach, always trying to keep up with everything. Man, like again, we spoke about that before the podcast. Like it's still processing everything because it's so much. And European was like Monday to Sunday. It's a full week tournament, right? So I'm sure that like here during the podcast we forgot about someone or something because it's just too much. But excited for the future. Like 2023 European, I think was a really great kick out of the year. Cannot wait for the next major that is Pants. All right, and the Grand Prix that's right before that.
Yep, Grand Prix, Friday, March 3rd, IBJJF Flow Grappling Grand Prix in Austin, Texas. Bruno, thank you so much for joining me. If you guys miss any of the Europeans matches, you can go back and watch all the replays on Flow Grappling. Like we mentioned a couple times, we got the Grand Prix coming up Friday, March 3rd. We got adult male black belt lightweight, male or female heavyweight, and we also have the super fight between Tainan Dalpra, Isaac Bayens, 30 minutes, new rules for stalling. It's going to be incredible. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks again, Bruno. We'll see you guys soon.